It is getting increasingly dangerous out there, the growing hostility between supporters of President Trump and those who oppose him. ABC 7's Jess Dowdrick joins us now with a look at the nation's current political climate.
Recently, a disagreement over politics led to a shooting in Tampa. According to Tampa police, an argument got heated and one man showed up with two guns, shooting another man in the thigh and the rear end. This is what our nation has seemingly become.
What do we do?
Stand up right now! Show up to almost any political rally or event in 2018, and you'll see the hatred and divide among Americans. It was clear as day during President Trump's recent visit to Tampa.
Hey, ho, ho. Donald Trump has got to go.
Both parties recognize the extreme divisiveness. Former state representative and Democrat Keith Fitzgerald says he's never seen anything like it.
The political atmosphere is toxic. We are as divided as we have been perhaps since the Civil War.
Sarasota Republican Club President Rod Thompson says he gets frustrated when people say it's never been this bad, because he says that's not true.
I mean, I remember in my lifetime, I remember the riots of the 60s. I was just a kid, but there were riots in my city. You had riots all over the country. You had the anti-Vietnam War protests. You had the race riots.
Thompson says the Obama era was just as divisive, but it looked different.
In the American left, that is where almost all protests, marches, demonstrations, all of this outwardness, comes from. The right and conservatives in America generally do not protest. They don't march down streets. We had a lot of divisiveness during the Obama years, a lot of frustrations, but it didn't erupt in what I sometimes call a little bit of tantrum throwing.
Thompson calls the Trump years a reaction to the Obama years. For Fitzgerald, although he feels that there's been years of fuel for the forest fire, he says President Trump was the spark.
This president, unlike any we've ever had, intentionally stokes the flames of partisan and cultural conflict, and he does it constantly. Maybe he does that to deflect, maybe he does it for other reasons, but what it means for the rest of us is we cannot escape.
The media has become an apparent target and, according to the right, a player in the divisiveness. Trump coining the phrase fake news media during a live shot right here on ABC 7 at 7. During President Trump's visit, this happened.
Alan, we're right in the middle of all of it right now.
Thompson says network news and what's called the mainstream media is to blame, especially CNN.
That whole sort of conglomeration of mainstream media has long had a trending leftward bias in their coverage. And I know that personally because I worked in newsrooms and I was a very lone conservative a lot of the times. And most everybody that I worked with was honest about it and fairly tried to be objective, but worldviews always come through.
Psychologist Dr. Eddie Renier says every day he has clients talk about their anger and stress brought on by politics.
I hear all sorts of things in that office because people feel my office is a safe place and they know that I will be receptive. So I hear both sides.
What Dr. Renier says he notices is that the emotion is so over the top that there's no content to it.
I've never seen a time where it's been so divisive. Even in the time of the civil rights movement, when people were also very angry, at least they could discuss content. Today, the emotion is so raw that we can't even get to the content.
So what's the solution? Fitzgerald says,
we do that through elections. And the elections that are coming up, even though the president's name isn't on the ballot, can and will serve as a referendum on the way he's ruling and what he's done.
Thompson says he doesn't know how it gets better. But for him personally, he feels that there just needs to be more policy and principle debates and respectful conversations.
And I sometimes wonder if the people shouting the loudest lack actual confidence in their convictions and in their position because they're not willing to debate on the merits of what they're saying.
Both sides seem to agree that through all of this, policy is being lost, and as we all know, policy is what can change our lives. Jess Dowdrick, ABC 7, your Suncoast News.